And so the cab of the pickup truck is where we all live and work, and the bed of the pickup truck is where all of our equipment is and where we put that telescope. So the telescope is at the back end of the bed, and all of our equipment is in front of it. So now we have to get our spacewalkers ready to go outside and do their spacewalks. We call them EVAs, extravehicular activity. So this is my friend and my classmate, Drew Feustel, coming out of the airlock. You can see him there with the reflection of the world on his head. That was very exciting for him, his first spacewalk, so big, big smiles. Inside the cab, we've got Mike Massimino, who is choreographing this spacewalk. We've practiced this a dozen times. There's me getting ready to drive the robotic arm. There's somebody on the end of the robotic arm getting ready to work. And so the very first task for us was to remove this camera, called Wide Field Camera 2. It had been in place for 16 years. And Drew's job was to drive this bolt to get the whole camera to come out. It was stuck. The bolt was stuck, it wouldn't turn. So, and the way it's designed is, if you over torque it, it breaks and leaves that old camera in place because they want it to still be usable. Nobody wanted that old camera to stay in there. So this is the team on the ground that has developed all of the tools and training for us to do this mission. And there's Drew, that's his camera view showing you that, yep, he got that bolt to turn. He's a great mechanic, and you can see the reaction. This is the senior project scientist. The emotion, right? With, oh my gosh, we're not gonna get our new instrument in there. And then, yep, we did it. That was day one of the spacewalks. We had 4 more days to go. So here he is pulling that camera out. He's gonna stow it. We're gonna pull the new one out of one of these gold-colored boxes here, put the new one in, and then we put the old one back in the case and bring it home. So it's like moving a piano around, right? So my movements on the robotic arm had to be very, very slow, because even though things are weightless, they still have mass. So if you get that thing going with a lot of energy, it's gonna be really hard to stop. So that's why all of our movements were very slow, very gradual. And the crew would sometimes get tired of how slow I would drive. And so when we were practicing, we'd be in the pool, and they would say, okay, I need 3 more inches to the right. And I'm like, seriously, 3 inches? You can't reach it from there? But I didn't say that. So I would just, after a while, I learned to just fold my arms and go, okay. And then I would wait. And they would say, oh, that looks great. And I hadn't moved it an inch. So I figured that out eventually, that they didn't really need that extra 3 inches. They could probably reach for it. So these are just some really cool shots you'll see of our spacewalkers. We had sent a different pair out each day. We had 2 pairs of spacewalkers, so 4 spacewalkers total. And there's some really neat images, both from their helmet cams and from some cameras around the orbiter to show what their view was like. We would drive the robotic arm to put them in place, and then sometimes we would have time to just monitor what they were doing, and then sometimes look at the Earth. And so we'd be seeing some amazing things on the Earth, and we might accidentally comment about it, and they would hear us and say, hey, come on, we're working here. You guys get to work. So every time after a spacewalk, they would come in, and I would think, oh, my work is done. I've gotten done driving the arm for the day, and I would come downstairs, and there would just be this explosion of gear and tools and spacesuit parts everywhere, and I thought, okay, nobody's done, right, until all of this is put away and we get ready for the next day. So we did that every day for 5 days, sending a different team out spacewalking. They have to have all the tools that they need. There's some set of tools that they can leave in the garage, but it's not like they can run down to the hardware store to get something. So we really have to think ahead and plan for every single item that they might need during those events. So this spacewalk was to install some new guidance sensors, some new RSUs, so rate sensing units, and they help turn the telescope in the direction that the scientists need it to go. But it's a very tricky place to work. There's a lot of other equipment in there, and if they bump any of that out of alignment, they can disable the telescope from being able to do what it's supposed to do. So very, very tricky. You see them using these special tools to hand equipment in and out, and then you see how excited Mike is to finally be done. There's a lot of emotion that happens that if you don't know, you don't see, because people are keeping very calm, right, very professional during the events, but they know how high stakes it is. And so they're feeling that as well. And every once in a while, you'll see a little bit of celebration, which is really cool. There was a computer that failed on the telescope just a few weeks before we were supposed to launch. This was back in 2008. And my house had just flooded in Hurricane Ike. And so my good thing that I was looking forward to was getting to launch in space. And then they said, well, this computer just failed. We're gonna delay another 7 months before we launch into space. And I was like, oh no. But it was the right thing to do because we needed that computer so that the telescope, it's still up there operating today. So lots and lots of, they tried to just cram as much repair and upgrade work as they could into the telescope. You can see one of the crew members opening it very, very carefully, making sure nothing's going to fly out. This instrument that got removed, this is day 3, I think. You're getting the very detailed version of all these spacewalks. Who remembers when the telescope first launched that had a problem? Does anybody remember